Hello, everybody. Just a little insert from me at the start of the episode. I strongly urge that if you enjoy the content, if you feel strongly about anything, that you like, that you subscribe, that you leave comments, possibly advice for us. Um, at the start of this journey, when we have no fans and nobody knows who we are, this stuff really makes a difference. Feel free to give us a follow on Twitter. We'll be making that account a lot more active now. And apologies in advance. We make a mistake later in the video, and when we're talking about ESL Pro League, we think it's a 12-team playoff bracket, but it is in fact a 16-team playoff bracket. It doesn't affect the video largely, but just bear in mind that we will not be talking about the last chance qualifiers. And when we're talking about the groups, we are largely talking about 3 people making it through instead of 4. We cover extra people, and I don't feel it strongly affects the content that we made that mistake. So I've left it in, but just to let you know that we're aware of that mistake. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Welcome, everybody, to the inaugural episode of the Oracle podcast. Um, it will be hosted by myself, John, and I've got my permanent co host here with me, Ted. Um, we have been long-time fans of the Counter-Strike franchise. For myself, since about 2014, where I was following the Titan team with Kenny S. Well, I think actually that when I first got into them was it must have been just the time when Kenny S got off. Basically got off. I forget what team he was in before that. Now was it like Clan Mystic or something like that? I think maybe.
I don't know.
And then he joined Titan because basically the split had happened with Titan and Existence, and basically I'm half French, so that was my initial interest in the team. And then they've always had very flashy players like Shocks and Kenny S, and I've been a big fan of those for as long as I can remember at this point. And yeah, so I've been watching the game for a long time as a fan, as a player, obviously, of the game as well. I've been a face at level 10. I am currently at like 20k in the game. So obviously, I know nothing according to nobody's on Reddit. Or, I mean, I'm already starting wars. We haven't even started the first episode properly yet. So basically, we've been long-time fans of the franchise, and we watch the pros, and we always have big, long conversations on Discord about it, and wax lyrical about CS and the game and how epic it is. And we figured, why do that only for ourselves? Why not share that out with the rest of the world in a podcast? And it's something that we find fun. So I've introduced a little bit of what we're doing here and not necessarily so much about myself. Ted, you got anything to say? Any sort of little intro piece for you here?
Well, one of the cool things about both of our love of CS is you started watching it a bit before I did, but you started at 14, I started about 15, 16. And at the time I was living in America in I was a freshman in high school and I just started playing CS because it's what my friends were playing. And I started watching the pro scene and we both got drawn to the same godly man that is Kenny S. So
True.
like almost opposite sides of the world, we were both supporting the same team for a good amount of time. And then when we met each other at the school we met at, one of the first things we actually bonded over was our at the time we were both G2 fans. I still remain true. You've now switched over to
I
Vitality.
mean, to be fair, I was loyal to the countrymen.
Yes,
To
you were
me,
more for the
yeah,
French scene.
yeah.
I liked it for their star power, their like style, and you had the nationality aspect to it. So we both had things that drew us to that team. And that's one of the first things that we bonded over
Yeah,
was our love of CS.
a little bit of the behind the scenes lore coming in there for an episode 1 drop. I love it. I love it.
I remember just like one of the
Oh, dude, same. Yeah.
first weeks. Like
Oh,
I just meant
literally, it was just like to give you guys a bit of an understanding. It was just that we were some of the first people we even talked to was each other at this school.
yeah. I had
Um,
just moved from America to the UK, living
Indeed,
out of home for
and
the
I
first
was
time.
moving across from a different school beforehand, and literally just so early on, we got to talking and talking about CS, the best game,
Yeah.
really. So yeah, we're really passionate fans of this game. We've put thousands of hours into the game. We've watched a lot of Counter Strike for a long, long time, And, maybe we're not pros, but I am more than, allowed to have an opinion on this kind of shit. And when I watch the game, I can kind of I can pick up what's going on. I'm not able to execute like a pro, but it doesn't matter. I can do better than the average fan, and I have an eye for this game. I've played it long enough.
Mm.
So we decided we're going to make this podcast, and for the most part, I think we'll talk about the pro scene and just the wider community in Counter Strike in general. We plan to keep this coming at a weekly rate at the moment, and that's possible to change, but it's just where we're at the moment. And yeah, we'll be talking about everything that's happening in the world of Counter Strike. So for this week, well, we've actually recorded a couple episodes before this, including a Cologne episode, but they'll never air, so you don't have to worry about that. All that you need to know from what happened back then is that we established very deeply that I am a Vitality fan, and Ziwu is the player I think is going to be the best. And my friend Ted here, he's a m0NESY fan, and he's a G2 fan, and it's very clear who he thinks is going to be the best player. So
Mm.
beyond that, there's nothing too much else to introduce here. Apart from obviously my gloating at Cologne for the Vitality W. But we're coming up on Pro League now as we speak currently to give away the game a little. FaZe Clan is playing Ninjas in Pajamas. They're 1-0 down and they're 10-6 up on the second map as we speak. But there's actually been quite a lot that's happened in this Pro League already. And I think where I'd like to start personally is I'd like to start with Spirit because I don't know. This is so as we speak at the moment. Spirit are 1-1, so they won their opening game against uh Wild Card. I think it is. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, it was wild
Um,
card.
I mean, literally, who gives a fuck though? Um,
Yeah,
and
it
then
was
they
fun.
lost to MIBR, which, like, don't get me wrong, I think they're the team with Insaney and stuff like that, and he's definitely a player I've had a lot of respect for. But it doesn't really matter. You shouldn't lose to this team. You've got Donk, you've got Shiro. More importantly, in that MIBR game that they lost, obviously it's a three mapper. It's a tight affair on the last map as well. It really could have gone either way, I guess, on that. But that's where it has to go your way. You know what I mean? Like your Spirit, you can't. You gotta be swinging dick. You know what I mean? You gotta be swinging dick in server, and people have got to be scared of you. That's part of like the aura that these players on this team should have, and we're seeing that fade. A little bit. Obviously, we've had the previous Cologne tournament. They had a terrible time of it there. Getting absolutely bodied by Mongols. Getting bodied by G2, which is more understandable, but to get bodied by Mongols at the beginning of a S tier tournament that everyone is going to be taking seriously isn't no joke, and it's a bad sign for sure. I still have a lot of faith in the players, the star power. Donk ain't going anywhere. He's so young. He's been keeping it up long enough now that I have to accept that he is a good player. Now,
He's legit.
he's legit. Whether or not he's like Nico 6 year
Yeah.
career legit or 6 years as like an S tier player legit, that really remains to be seen. And no one knows the answer to that right now, even though everyone could have a guess. But he's a talent. He's a star power player. He's defining what you can do as a rifle in the top tier of the game right now. He literally is the best player with a rifle right now. Actually, you could say Nico at Cologne was also hitting monster level. And certainly I would say that was true, but he hasn't kept it up, and Donk has done for the year. Shiro as well is easily one of the best AWPers in the world. I would say he's the third best AWPer in the world personally. Obviously, I'm going to put m0NESY and Ziwu, regardless of order, ahead of him, but he's really clearly up there. And with two players in the top, what, 5 spots in the world rankings, you got to be doing better than this. You can't be losing these games. Can't be looking weak on maps, just getting bodied. Like, it's worrying time to be a Spirit fan, I would say. And it's the rematch against Mongols. Sorry, just to add that in at the end there before my buddy gets to what he's got to say. But that is also a bit of a scary prospect right now. Given the state that they're looking in.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Spirit. Even though they did get across the line in that wildcard game, Donk literally fucking dragged them across the finish line. Like, everyone else on that team, Zontix was doing everything he could to make sure that that game was as close as possible. It was just, I think Donk ended up getting 75 kills over 2 maps,
Jesus Christ, he's a monster.
and they still ended up barely winning.
Yeah,
It was it was horrific.
actually,
Uh,
on that point, just quickly, just a little insert. I feel like at Cologne, what we saw was what happens to Spirit without Donk. But the more concerning thing about Pro League right now is you're seeing what can happen to Spirit with Donk. You know, with him actually still performing really well. Like this isn't Cologne. You know, he's not just shit in the bed. He's also just clapping cheeks, and they're still scraping or not even.
yeah, they played Wildcard on Ancient and Nuke. I would say two of Spirit's best maps. Like these are not maps that Spirit are known to be weak on or anything like that. This wasn't like a punish pick by Wildcard, I don't think. And still, first map they won 13 to 11, barely getting across the finish line, with Donk getting, I believe, 38 kills.
That's crazy. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
And then the second map went into overtime, barely winning it again, 16-13 on Nuke. They
Yeah,
had a 9-3 T side on the first half, so they had a 9-3 lead going into the CT side of Nuke. Ended up going to overtime. Obviously, they had another 9-3 half, and then ended up winning 4-1 in the overtime.
yeah.
That is not what you want from Spirit against Wildcard. Like
Yeah.
I'm looking at the
And
roster here.
yeah, any names we know?
The only name I know is Stanislaw. And when the fuck was he
Oh,
last
literally. Oh no,
relevant?
Sonic as well. Sonic was he was a player on that South African Cloud9 at one point. He was
Oh,
with
the
what's his
South
name?
African. Oh, big team.
No, I know, but I would
Were
say
they
he was,
successful?
yeah. No, but kind of. I think they
Okay,
made it
I've
through.
never heard of him.
They got noticed. It was 80K, and then they got picked up by Cloud9, and I think they made it through a major once, I believe.
To
Um,
playoffs.
no, no, no. As in they qualified to the major, I
Oh,
think,
okay.
or something, and then I think they got bodied. But
Well,
basically,
from my understanding, Stanislaw is the only person on this team that I even have heard their name before.
yeah. No,
So,
okay. I'll just mention as well.
and
Fozy, he was briefly an NIP pickup, I believe, from their academy roster last year or the year before. I believe. So he is somewhat known to me. Neither of these are brilliantly like amazing pickups. I'd say Sonic, from what I remember when I was watching that 80K lineup a little bit back in the day, I think he was a pretty good player. I wanted to see him get picked up on another team a lot earlier and like given a try on a tier 2 kind of tier 1.5 team, but that hadn't happened. And
is it is it Fuzi? You said, is that how you pronounce it?
yeah, that guy is the NAP guy. So I believe he's
Yeah,
Swedish.
I'm
Um,
looking at his HLTV
he
now.
was not that good. He was not that good.
He was on Young Ninjas for 1 year, 2021 January to 2022 January, and then in 2022 January he got picked up and put on the main NIP roster,
Indeed.
and by April he got kicked.
Yeah, he did not make it very long, and he was definitely not good enough at the time
Yeah,
for that
and then he
seat.
wasn't on a team until August,
Yeah.
where he joined Senegal or Senegal.
Oh, I'm vaguely aware of that team. They're not super relevant, but they
Yeah,
have
but
done some
either
things
way,
in
Spirit
second tier
barely
competition.
crossed the finish line with a monster performance from Donk
Yeah.
against teams that you have to explain to me who the players are.
Exactly. They have not done enough to be, beaten Donk and Shiro, that's for
Yeah,
sure. No.
it's ridiculous, and like it's not. These aren't people that they should be struggling against. It's the first round matchup. This should just be a clear win. Obviously, it was a 2-0, but that could have been a 2-0 the other way
Yeah,
easily.
easily.
A few more Zontix or Donk mishaps, or Magic's Chopper Shiro mishaps,
Yeah.
and that's an easy loss. And
It,
given
yeah.
what they did today, they could be already out of this tournament.
Oh, they were actually genuinely in for a possible 2-0 again.
Yeah,
Just go straight home again. Which is a weird, crazy thought to think about. Obviously, they won the first game. History remembers the winner and not the loser, no matter how close the game was. Like, I get that. But at the same time, it's something that has to be brought up. And if you're really looking to the major, as where a lot of prediction is going to happen, this is not the signs you want to see for a team that can win that trophy. You know, in the hardest of circumstances. Um, so yeah, it's a scary time to be a Spirit fan. We're definitely gonna keep an eye on this. It's a lot of rumors circulating about Zontix being the player to go as well. So we'll see what happens with that. But I would say his performance this tournament has been pretty poor. I don't know. It may also just be the pressure of rumors like that going around that is inducing this, but we don't necessarily have the insight to be able to
As well as the
comment on that.
pressure. Yeah, I've heard a lot of talk about the pressures of being a Ukrainian on a Russian org. I've heard
Yeah.
that that's not an easy feat. So
I mean,
he's
near
got he's
impossible.
got my sympathies, but if you want to play on the same team as Donk, then
Yeah.
you have to keep running at the same pace no matter what's happening.
I
Like you
mean,
can't take into these factors.
the very truth of the matter is that they are a team with players capable of lifting trophies, and that has to be the goal and the target. At the very least, for a player like Shiro, who has been at the top for quite some time now, that has to be his goal at this point. He's not a rookie now. He's been around since basically 2020 with the Gambit roster going into Cloud9 and now coming to Spirit. This is his heyday right now. He's got to be making something of it, and they're not really taking home the trophies. And they're not looking in the form even close to what that would require right now, to be honest. So yeah, I think that's enough on Spirit for the moment. Did anything else particularly catch your eye in the what we've seen so far of Pro League?
Um, I haven't watched all the games, but
Hmm.
I've not been happy with what I believe FaZe lost their opening match as well.
They did to FlyQuest.
Yes, to FlyQuest. So there's been a few upsets already. Oh, they lost it to Senegal.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I'm forgetting. They beat FlyQuest, but they lost to Senegal. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so they in the opening round they lost to Senegal, which sent them to FlyQuest for the lower round one. And currently they're fighting against Ninjas and Patamas. It looks like they're about to push over the finish line on map 2, send it to a third map,
Third map. Yep.
as
But
long
it's
as they
still
don't.
uncomfortably close.
It's not looking good. And what would that third map be? Let's see. Um, let's see. So that third map would be. Where is this? I'm horrible at HLTV. I never go on this shit website. Oh yeah. So the third map would be Dust 2. They're currently playing
Okay.
Mirage.
I feel like they've definitely got a pretty good chance to win Dust 2.
Mm. So
They've
I
definitely
feel
got
good about.
players to do it, but they're definitely not in hero form right now. If anything,
Mm.
I mean, FaZe is also a team that does this. They look like they're on the outs, on the down, and somehow they get through all of these tight spots. But lately, I don't think that's the phase we've been seeing. I think we're hearkening to the phase of old a little bit when we talk of that, because in truth, the modern and current phase has been a team that gets defeated in these very tight high pressure moments in this last year, are not able to get their trophies over the line, even though against a varied myriad of opposition that they beat regularly at different tournaments where the pressure wasn't as intense. And now, since I mean, the good thing I would say about FaZe is Rops has been looking good again, which you needed. They looked dead in the water without him at the end of last season, like totally not a threat at all. Actually, without him, basically.
Yeah. Phase
Um,
isn't phase without Robs.
no, definitely not. And Carrigan has been looking in really bad form individually. Obviously, I'll never doubt his calling. He still pulls out masterclasses on people regularly. But his form individually is really bad, and then Frozen looks good, but not good enough. Like not as in he's not good enough for this team. He definitely is, but relative to make FaZe a winning team without Rops, he wasn't playing nearly well enough to be the carry. To be the guy soloing a game. He's just not that guy. He's a guy who can be a solid player, output more than he loses, win some significant clutch rounds. But he's not a player that's gonna 1v9 a game like a simple Ziwu, Modesty, Donk. He's not one of these. So Yeah, definitely say
I would put him in the A category rather than S tier player.
yes. Yeah, exactly. I think that's a pretty comfortable way, but even an A plus, but just not S.
Yeah, he's incredible, like absolutely incredible. But he's not in contention for the best in the world.
No, he is not. He's probably a top 10 player if we're
Yeah,
really thinking
and
about it.
given the scene, like given the form that we've seen Phase in recently, like if they want to win these games, that's what you would need. Like that's how bad Phase has looked with Kerrigan's underperformance, Rops going missing a little while ago. I'm happy to see he's coming back a bit, but
Yeah.
like if they had any chance in those games, it was on Frozen to just put the whole team on his back. And I don't think he's that player. I think he's a perfect player for what they want and when Phase is working well, when Phase is like a smooth motion, but when things start going wrong, you can't exactly all just get on Frozen's back like you could with the names that you've just mentioned.
I also just think in that sense he's not like the highest impact player. You know, his fragging is really good, and he plays a defensive, slower kind of extremity style really well. But and he does play critical roles in the middle of maps. On other maps, like I'm pretty sure he plays short on Mirage and things like that. But Twists was a guy before on the previous version of Phase that would deliver like impact beyond the numbers. I would
Yeah,
say a
Twist is a
lot.
space taker.
Space taker, a playmaker.
Yeah.
He's there to open a round. He can get you a double entry on a round that looks like you're about to lose and swing everything in your favor. But I would say Frozen's a lot more slow, measured. He can win a clutch out by himself, in the right circumstances. But he's not a guy who's delivering impact beyond his numbers. He's delivering impact similar or under his number. That's the reality of it. He's still outputting great numbers, and you can use that to win a lot of games. But that's just the truth of playstyle and things like that in the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, FaZe is definitely in a tight spot. I'm not totally out on them. I think they could take NIP, and I'm not so threatened by who they may face next. I think Heroic would be the more threatening of them. Does Heroic have Degs? They do have Degster here, don't they? I believe. So with Degster in place as well, I would say Heroic's definitely a legitimate threat. Nerds can be a player on someone like Frozen's level. Dexter can definitely be a player on or above Brokey's level, although you may not expect it this early on in his return. Although he's actually been there a while, he just hasn't played the tournaments with them for a while, really. And then Tessus and Shush are overqualified role player, or not overqualified. I'd say Shush is an overqualified role player. Tessus is a solid, player. Fills out a lot of the roles that you need. Can take on positions without as much resources as the rest. And then Kixan is as good up and coming IGF. So there really is a threat there, potentially, but I would still have FaZe as a favorite over that. Especially since we haven't really seen much of Heroic lately, or the real lineup for Heroic lately. So in that sense, I would say FaZe still have a really good chance to make it through. Obviously, which I mean, I would say Spirit does as well. Um, but they definitely have, um, you know, in my opinion, they should take out the opponents in their path as well. But I'm interested to see if the Mongols can reproduce what they reproduced before, as well against them. But both of them can still easily make it to the next round to playoffs. But yeah, definitely not good signs. Definitely not what you want to see.
Hmm.
If you want to believe in these guys as championship contenders.
Hmm. Just a little aside, did you see what happened with Tessos recently?
I did not.
Um, he got caught after a match. I believe it was only one map that he had this enabled for, but he didn't disable snap tap,
Oh yeah.
and at the end of the match, basically the computer ended up flagging it or something. They ended up figuring out that he had it enabled for the match, so they had to forfeit that map, and then they ended up losing the series.
Fucking
I forgot
hell.
I forgot who they were playing, but one of their recent games, Tessa's got caught for using snap tap when he shouldn't have been able to. Like,
Brilliant.
and I don't know how true this is, but I read somewhere that basically immediately after the match he just picked up his keyboard and threw it in the bin.
They lost the NIP in the opening match here.
I
Was
think
it?
that might have been it.
Yeah.
I think that was it.
Yes, it was because there's one of the maps that goes 0-1.
Yeah, that's because he has snap tap.
Wow. Oh, that's so silly.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
that's like he technically got caught for cheating,
Yeah,
but they were understandable. Like he obviously didn't do it on purpose. It's not like he was wall hacking or anything.
yeah.
So that was his punishment. He's not banned for life, which is a good thing,
Fair enough.
honestly.
Fair enough. So in
That would
that
be a
sense, then we
massive
have
shame
maybe
if he was, but
yeah. Well, in that sense, then we maybe have a little bit of a misrepresentation of what heroic are really like right now.
mhm.
Because they could easily have not lost a map here at all. Basically,
Yeah,
they've yet to
I
lose
believe it
to
was
any
their
other
pick as
opponent.
well.
I see. Well, that's even more of a travesty, really. But
Yeah, tough.
tough to be a heroic player right now. I mean, tough to be Tessus right now. Everyone hates
Yeah,
you. Like, holy shit.
yeah. There's
Um,
some pictures of his team just like looking at him and just you can see he's angry at himself and
yeah,
they're also just like like there's a whole mixture of
a
emotions going
medley of
on. Like
emotion. Yeah, for
it's like
sure. I can imagine.
frustration,
Well, now you might
anger,
have to play
disappointment.
phase to get through. Like, and if you don't play in phase, you might be playing NIP. And
Yeah,
truthfully, they don't look like a bad team themselves. Wrinkle looks like the truth, mate. I don't know where I'd put him. He probably doesn't. I mean, if I did a like power ranking of Warpers, he'd probably sit somewhere near 10. Um, but and he won't make it for this year probably most more than likely to the top 20. But
we
definitely
say he
looks
would sit near 10 of AWPers or players.
Warpers, not players.
Okay,
Right now, but he would probably be like the 10th best Warper.
what about if I can
Again,
list 10 good AWPers?
well, yeah, that's the other side. Maybe it's a bit hard on that sense, but he's a bit he's been looking like he's a real player for a while. What I like about him is he's quite aggressive as well.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I've seen some of his gameplay. He's legit. I like it.
yeah, and yeah, definitely not a player that plays scared with the AWP or plays too passive with the AWP. So in that sense, like I also think he delivers impact beyond the numbers as well. So he looks like a player that's a bit the truth. He a little bit reminds me of Ultimate actually. Both quite like cocky guys as well, or confident guys maybe more accurately. Um, but yeah, no, definitely a player to watch. I mean, not a player to watch. He's kind of on a lot of people's radar now, but a player that his trajectory continues to look good, and it's just a shame he's on NIP. you
Yeah.
know, because you'd love to see him try and do something on a better team right now. Is he's that kind of player? Um, just having a look over again at the tournament. So Eternal Fire is through, which is an interesting one. Navi made it through, but we expect that of Navi. They look like maybe the most consistent S tier team right now, in my
Just to
view.
confirm, if you win two, you do get through automatically, right?
So if you're in the upper final, you get through automatically. You
Yeah.
have to
Okay.
win the
Nice.
lower bracket final to get through, I believe. I think that's how
Nice.
ESL formats their tournament. So Eternal Fire is through regardless, basically at this point. They're playing Navi next, but I don't think it matters who wins actually. Um, yeah, I would say it's as always it's a bit of a Xantara's show. He's still just one of the best players in the world, far overpowered for the role he's in. I'd say Wogzik has also looked like he's delivering a bit of a better form throughout all the maps. Sorry, throughout the series that they've played. He's looked like a decent, quite a consistently good player. Though that really it doesn't necessarily mean too much against some of the opposition they played. But I'd say you know it's still the Xantares show overall. Xantares is still the big body that carries them through these games. Wogzik being in all three maps is cool, but we really need to see him deliver against better opposition more frequently to believe in anything there, so to speak. I'd say I'm not that surprised Eternal Fire made it through. Just looking at the opponents that they played, it wasn't nothing too scary. Obviously, Sangal took down FaZe, which is kind of cool that they took down Sangal, but I think FaZe was the scary opponent, so I'm not sure that necessarily adds any much, prestige to the names that they're taking in that sense. But yeah, glad to see them get through to the playoffs. It's been a minute. I feel like, um,
It's a shame there's no stage.
yeah, well, no, yeah, no real crowd. Not an arena.
Yeah, it's Mauser's tournament to win.
What's your read on G2? I'm sure you've been paying a closer eye to them than I have.
I'm still wary, as I am always. Like I believe, but I'm always wary. I'm ready for disappointment with any G2 roster. Like I still get upset, but I'm prepared to be upset. I have all the facilities ready
It
before the game
sounds like you're
starts.
in a fucking abusive relationship than that. Like,
I am. I am. I just every time they just convince me to come back.
yeah, yeah.
Right when I'm about to gain the courage.
So what do you think? Are they lifting trophy here, or isn't this isn't an early call? I mean, it
They
definitely doesn't mean
like
anything necessarily, but
this is the problem with them. They could,
yeah,
but they very easily couldn't.
yeah,
It all depends. I don't even know what it depends on. It depends on what like Monacy and Nico ate for breakfast, I guess.
yeah, yeah.
Like it's ridiculous. Like
Maybe it's maybe like Zywoo is the air quality. Maybe it's like the star alignment or something
yeah,
for G
but
two.
I'm not a gambling man anyway,
Right.
but if I was, I would never fucking gamble on a G2 game. Like that's not there's no logic or reason that really goes into predicting these.
Yeah. Well,
Like
the
if you look
problem.
back at
Yeah.
Cologne, if you look back at Cologne, absolute shit first game versus Seoul.
Yeah.
Like they got stomped. Lots of credit to Seoul. They did a great job. They did like really good. Like I wouldn't put it all down to anti-stratting. They definitely still like hit the shots when they needed to, but like they did a good few like plays that caught G2 off guard. They read them like a book. And then like I just put my hands up at that point. I was like, all right, G2's out of this. Like they're not beating Spirit in this form. Then all of a sudden, just the lights turn on. G2 stomps every single game in the lower bracket. Then all of a sudden it gets to the stage. You're facing against Maus, who are known to be weak on stage. I don't even think they played that good of a game. I think G2 just played worse.
Right.
Like it's it's ridiculous. Like there's no predicting which G2 you're going to see on any day. And if it's the G2 that I know and love, then yeah, they take this whole fucking tournament, and I'm going to be happy to see it. But I'm not believing just yet. I'm not putting my money on any
You need to
tables.
see a bit more of this tournament first. I
Yeah,
think that's fair enough. One thing I'll just say about G2,
they
I
don't
think,
seem that solid.
yeah, definitely. I think one of the things that you said, which I really agree with, and the way I'd put it is like the problem G2 have is that they are the ultimate punter's chance of against anyone, right? And what that means is like they could win any tournament actually just at any point because their players are really just that good, and the quality of the lineup is so it's flush with like talent throughout. Snacks might be the least talented at his role in this team, and it's not. I would say he's not like a super impressive IGL, but I think in terms of like cooling a loose style with a lot of star players, I don't think it's actually been bad for G2. I think it's kind of matched up with what they want. You notice someone like Hunter's playing better because I'm guessing he has a bit more freedom to make plays now because I think Snacks isn't necessarily calling something super deep and technical. It's very simple ideas, but you just have players that can make simple ideas work, at a top level. The problem is that's not consistent. A team that also has top players and can play a more deep style or more complicated style can take advantage of you and your simple style in that sense. And you see that often with G2. Like sometimes it looks like the form is just unplayable. And then they get into these games against like a Navi, and a Mouse is also a very tactical team. A Saw is a very tactical team. And you just see like the slow, like break it down. Like they're gonna read kind of where the flow of the game is at. So they have an idea that you might lean heavy this way, and they're gonna take a gamble as well. And basically you can just see that like with equal skill, even sometimes without, but with equal skill especially, these guys can lose these games just on the cooling alone. It feels like a little bit. They also don't like the teamwork isn't super tight in the same kind of way that the tactical system isn't super deep. So that's part of it for sure. But yeah, this makes G2 an impossible team. Like they're the worst gambling team of all time because they
Yeah,
literally there is some chance they win any game they ever play. You know, like it's they always have a
doesn't
chance.
matter.
Yeah, yeah,
Like they can beat anyone, but they can also lose to anyone. And this has been true throughout essentially all of G2's rosters. It's like how they build the roster is the problem. Like there's no it's always been star players. There was Kenny S on the team. There was Shocks on the team, I believe, right?
yeah,
Um just all these like really, really talented all-star gonna go down in like the Hall of Fame of CS players. But the whole structure of the team is relying on these people. So as soon as they have any days off where they're not playing 100% of like best player in the world, it all just depends on that. So like whatever percentage chance Kenny S was playing on that day, that's how good the team was.
yeah,
It, and then from there on, everything else basically relied on who they were playing. And they also have been riddled with the disease of playing to their opponent's level, where like if they play a worse team, they play worse themselves, and then when they play a really good team, generally they pick it up. Not necessarily with this roster, I wouldn't say that's a factor, but like historically speaking, it's just it's been all over the place with G2, and
yeah.
I'll repeat it again, like just never place a bet on them. Like
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. I mean, so the history of G2, like it's been a lot of, they've always had teams that you would consider contenders for titles, but they've underdelivered in an unbelievable way on titles. Have you heard the news potentially that Nico is going to Falcons, by the way? Are
I
you aware of
have,
this?
and
How I
I
wanted to
don't.
get your take on that.
Part of me doesn't believe it.
Right.
Um, Obviously, it could very well happen. Like he needs. I've heard rumors that G2 is asking him for a pay cut for some godforsaken reason.
Right.
Doesn't make any fucking sense to
Yeah.
me. Why the hell would you ever ask Nico for a pay cut?
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to be investing into him. If anything, after this year and him coming back into form, he should be deserving a raise.
Yeah. I'm
His
kind of
Cologne
with you.
performance was incredible. Like that guy just do whatever you possibly can. G2, if you want to stay in CS and remain a top, like they haven't dropped out of the top 10 in years, no matter how disappointed I've been in them. Like that's because of how good their players are. If they want to remain and continue to have that and be able to like make it to playoffs, have like lots of these fans that people want to support, is a huge organization, lots of fans all over the world, one of the most supported teams in other games as well. It's just the biggest org, one of the biggest orgs out there. If they want to remain in CS, keep Monacy and Nico. They cannot leave.
Yeah. It's
They have
true.
to dig their claws into them.
I mean,
And the
when you
fact that it's
yeah.
a possibility is just ridiculous.
I mean, the one thing I'll say is if Nico does go though, the pockets of G2 probably get a lot deeper. I mean, who knows how much they reallocate to the team itself, but you can't like he's not going to go for cheap, right?
Oh,
Um
certainly not. But his contract does end towards the end of this year. So
ah,
if he doesn't re-sign, he's a free agent. Then G2 doesn't get anything for that.
so they might be absolutely fucked then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like if his contract runs up before they sell him and he doesn't want to re-sign, G2's absolutely screwed. They don't even have any money to buy anyone replaceable. Like
I
they
mean,
just
who
bought
there's only
Mars.
one or two names in the world that could even come
Yeah,
close to replacing it, right?
yeah. And like whoever they would want would be a huge paycheck because I don't think many other people's contracts that would be in this position. I don't think their contracts are ending soon.
Yeah.
I think their like teams have done the smart thing and treated them well and like made them want to stay. Like I don't even think you could poach Mouse, even though they're a much smaller organization.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible that you could poach Miles. I don't know. The thing is, I don't know their contract thing. I don't know when
It's
their contracts expire. If it's the end of this year, it's possible. If not, then I would say it's unlikely even then because of the form that they've generally been in. But if they can fail to deliver any trophies, the question's going to start coming up, and these guys aren't going to be happy with that forever. In terms of like, who would you want to see G2 pick? If this ends up being the truth, right? And you've got a lot of money now, like who from like, I'm gonna say it's not gonna be possible to pick up from the teams that are like equal, right? So you're not getting Vitality, you're not getting Spirit. You're not
Maybe
getting
it's
Phase probably.
I can't get Phase. I feel like Phase could be picked.
Phase might be able to. I'm just kind of curious, like who's in the lower level do you think could do any of the replacing for Nico? Like not if, even if they're not really actually lining up. Who would you
I don't know in the
who'd be
lower
somewhat
level.
excited to see?
Excited to see would be Rops, I think. I think
Right,
if Malbs took over more of Nico's positions and then Rops kind of came in.
plays the late round. I mean, he kind of like Nico's kind of going a bit more laid back in the style now. Like he, I think Malbs
Yeah,
takes on more of the entries, so it kind of almost would
I
just be
want to
like,
keep him in the
yeah,
entries, but like
yeah.
I don't think the overlap would be incredibly difficult. He plays more of the extremities, whereas Malbs likes to be in the middle of the map, I think.
Any other players kind of like would be? I have a few I could suggest that like they're kind of wild ones, but I think if it
If
happened,
you
you'd
yeah,
be
pop some names into my head,
okay.
I'll tell
So
you
one
if
of
I
the ones I was thinking about straight away, just because Eternal Fire is back right now as well, is Zantara's. I think
Zantara. Okay, yeah,
so.
he's solid,
The one thing
solid
I'd say
space
is a bit aggressive. So maybe he doesn't line up well in the same team with a guy like Malbs, but you could probably make it work still. I think he's really that good. But in that sense, like he's a lot of firepower. He's a lot of opening firepower, and with him and Malbs on T side, you could imagine how scary the opening pack could start to look.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, another couple of players that kind of came to mind is a guy like Nuts. I think like he's kind of dropped off a bit since his form in the start of the year, but that kind of player, I think he's not an eco. None of these guys. I'm just gonna preface. None of these guys will be anywhere near Nico. These are not
to,
suggestions that would line up to Nico.
to
But
say any of them are would be sacrilege. It
right,
really
I
would.
mean, there's the only person that could even come close right now is Donk. Right, he's the only player you
Yeah,
could say would be like maybe a 1-for-1 replacement or whatever. But even then, it's like debatable, really. Um, so maybe a guy like Nuts, I think he's on the up. He's still young on his career. Like he showed promising signs at the start of Heroic. I also like his style. I think he's a really high impact player in that sense. Like again, an impact beyond the numbers kind of player in my view. Another guy would be like this is a reach because I don't think it can happen, but a guy like Keserato, you know, like he would also fit the bit more laid back because you could have Malbs be more the aggressive guy
yeah.
and he could fit a more clutch laid back guy, and I think it would work still. Um, yeah, so those are kind of like three names that are like on teams that kind of mismatch their level maybe a little. So that's kind of why I
Out of
picked them.
those, I would say um, Zantara's and K Serato were probably my two favorites out of that.
Yeah, no fair. I mean, Nertz's recent form
Um,
hasn't been as strong, so I understand.
yeah. I was never his biggest fan when he wasn't his prime either. Like he was obviously very good. Like he helped he helped win at every tournament. Like
Yeah,
whatever tournaments they've won, he's been a part of. He wasn't like next to getting dragged across the finish line.
yeah, fucking next man.
Yeah,
Still
like
catching strays.
he's never gonna stop.
No, no. I forever will have like he'll be my fucking whipping boy. You know, like if I've got to
Yeah,
describe a shit player, it's like I'm going for Nectar first. You know,
just yeah, someone who just doesn't belong. Um,
just zero impact, like
yeah,
absolutely zero impact player. Like one clutch and 10 fucking tries. You know, like okay,
and K Serato, he's South American, right?
yeah, he's a Brazilian guy. I
Yeah,
don't
so
think the thing about him is like he was supposed to go. He was rumored to go to Liquid, but then he chose to stay with like Furia, which is the unambitious move, and the like staying with the Brazilian scene move. So
okay. Well,
maybe
I'm
not.
going to assume that he has good English, and I'm going to take that out of it. I would say he's probably my favorite.
Yeah, in terms of the
Um,
player strength, yeah, I'm with you.
quite a lot. Part of the reason is I like the angle of like obviously Malbs seems to be very comfortable on the team, but I would like a bit more of American representation, whether it's North or South.
Fair, actually, kind of cool, wholesome angle there for sure. Wholesome
Yeah,
angle.
like I think there's so much talent over there that just isn't being explored because they never really get tested
Yeah.
because they're like the Brazilian scene is definitely second to Europe. Like that's, but Europe is definitely still number one.
Oh,
Like
it's not even close, right?
yeah, like
Yeah,
just even in just practice and scrims, like that. There's a reason the Australian teams never really make it that far, and it's because they don't like when they go to the big tournaments. That's the first time they're playing these guys,
yeah,
unless they decide to do it with like 140 ping.
right. Or they're on like boot
Like
camps for like months and months a
yeah,
year. Yeah,
like so I would really like if some of these South American and North American talents could like come to Europe and like get tested on teams like G2. I was really happy when Mobs got picked up, mainly for his skill. I love just how he plays. I like his style. I like what he does.
Yeah.
But then another part of me was like, fuck yeah, North America, not G2.
See,
Like,
one of the things with Malbs, okay, which like I'm obviously happy for him. Like, G2's a great team, and he seems to be fitting well, and he's delivering what like above what I expected.
oh, certain.
To be honest, like, and he's so aggressive as well. Like,
He had
his
so
frags are
much
so
Christmas going into it
impactful.
as well.
Yeah, definitely. His frags are like so impactful as well. Like,
Hmm.
he just tears these. He's kind of got like a. He's not really the same kind of player, but he's kind of got that twists quality where he'll just like destroy two guys in like quick
Yeah,
succession that just totally opens the round for you.
they won't even look like they had a chance
No,
either. Like,
exactly like the very instant destruction kind of style. Um, but one of the things I would say that disappointed me about him being picked up by G2 was how the fuck did Liquid and Complexity just not
oh,
like
that's
land on
ridiculous.
this
That
guy?
just shows how like how bad these NA orgs are.
Like
Like
Liquid,
they
yeah,
don't have their eyes open. How did you miss this
I
guy?
don't know. I don't know because he was around for a while. He was M80's best player for a while.
Yeah.
Um, like to me, like Liquid maybe is a little more excusable. The thing is, like I would have replaced Kinder with this guy a while ago now.
Oh, certainly. The
Um,
fact that like you kept your Kinder while
yeah.
this guy was just like floating around your scene.
Oh, definitely. In terms of like what he's delivering, I get that. The one thing I'll say kind of understand is like he's Yukenda's a more proven player, you know, and it's a similar role. It's a proven player. He's played in Europe a lot, like, and you know, you're kind of banking on this guy to turn it around. So you have some belief that Yukenda will turn it around. That's why he's still here, clearly. So in that sense, I can argue that Yukinda's best level is going to be comparable to Malbs's best level, and from that angle, you could argue from a Liquid side. But the part that has no excuse whatsoever, complexity. Okay, they are not a team doing anything right now. Since the start of CS2, they made that run to Sydney to the final and they lost to FaZe, right? And they deserved to lose to FaZe because they weren't the better. I mean, they could have won, but they weren't the better team. They don't have the firepower, the depth of the team. They aren't able to like overperform under pressure. They always underdeliver in the pressure moment. And you know they Elige is playing fucking amazing count. In fact, Elige would be a player I would say for that Nico replacement right there as
Oh,
well, right there.
oh yeah.
Like he's
I
a
don't.
player that actually could come
I just
close.
went blank.
No, for
Just
sure. But
I love that boy.
I know, and he would
Elise,
fit
that's
kind of
my
the
top
roles
choice.
like quite well actually.
That's my top choice.
Yeah,
Elise.
true, true. That's a good pick. Um, but like you have a Liege in like fucking actual contending form, right? If he had the team, he could contend right now with the best. And you didn't pick up Malbs. You didn't think that would go well together, like the really aggressive star power, and then Elige can also play like a mid round or late round style with a player like that on his team because he can play opener, he can play closer, like but you didn't think that combination was gonna work, and with the fucking available talent in your scene, you just whiffed that, and complexity is dying on their ass, just wasting Elige's like ability right now. Like, to me, that was inexcusable. Like, I can give some excuses for Liquid, but I can give no excuses for complexity, like whiffing this play, like pickup. Like, what are you so determined about keeping this team for? Like
Yeah.
why does it have to be these five players? Like the only two I could keep right now is fucking JL, not JL, fucking what's the IGL name again? It's fucking I'm blanking his name, but that the
JT.
IGL, huh?
JT.
JT, fucking two letter fucking J names. JT and fucking Elige. Those are the players I keep. You could keep Holzuk if you want. I think that's a loser's mentality to keep that player. I don't think he's really ready to beat any of the best AWPers.
He could be a decent stopgap.
Right, he's
Like
a
while you.
stopgap. Like, but he's like he's a eventual ceiling you will reach if you want to be a
Yeah.
world contender. Um, but at the very least, like the other two guys are they're not delivering. They haven't been for a while. This isn't a new team. Like this is I can't believe you missed this guy. I
Yeah.
genuinely can't believe it. But yeah, I don't even remember where we started. We started with talking about G2, and now I'm talking
Yeah. We
about
we talked about G2 and how Nico might be leaving, and
yeah,
going back to that, now that I've actually like started engaging my brain, Elige would definitely be my pickup if Nico were to leave.
it's a good one.
And I was thinking about like I have been a G2 fan for the longest time, but like basically in all sports I watch, I'm a fan of the players, not really the team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially in esports as well. Like players move all
But
the time.
even in football, like technically I'm a Liverpool fan, but I'm really a Mo Salah fan because I started watching. I don't really watch that often, but like rather than watching Liverpool highlights, I'll watch Mo Salah highlights.
Right.
Like if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
So
You're thinking about
but
just Falcons?
no, but so G2 over the years they've always had players that I've really liked, and then if one of them left, they were replaced by someone else that I really liked.
Yeah.
So let's say Nico goes to Falcons and he brings Monacy with him. There's a real chance that I wouldn't necessarily be a G2 fan anymore. I would
Right.
either, if I could get over my issues with the Falcons, I would either be a Falcons player, Falcons fan, or I would be a Vitality fan because they're my very close second favorite team
Fair.
and
Respect.
always have been.
Yeah. Fair.
Like, I gotta respect Zaiwu, Apex. I've always been a big fan of his. I think Flames, Spinks is cool. Messi's a British boy. Like, gotta
Yeah.
do that.
True. You got that. You got the kinmanship angle as well.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons why. The only real reason I'm a G2 fan is because Kenny S was on the team. Because I was an Envious fan when I first started watching because and I believe just Envious happened to win the tournament that the first tournament that I
Oh,
watched.
really?
Like
That's kind of funny.
I'm just a bandwagon kid that doesn't change his bandwagon.
Right,
Like
right, right. A loyal bandwagon kid,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Fucking. I mean, fair. Kind of. Aren't we all though? Aren't we all a little
Mm.
bit like that?
Well, I watched the tournament and I was like, holy shit! I didn't even know you could do that,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
didn't know that this could be the like it just gripped me. Like I was hooked up right off the bat once I watched that tournament. I watched Envious win. So you could call me a bandwagon guy, but like they sucked me. Like they earned my respect. You
Sorry,
know?
you got me a little bit with the they sucked me, and then I was just yeah,
Yeah,
mind went to the gutter there
that
one.
might have been a. I don't even know what I was. I forgot when I said that. I might have misspoken.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. That was funny.
Oh yeah, they
Um,
sucked me in. Yeah, like they gripped me. Like
yeah, yeah.
any analogy that you want,
Mate,
I'll throw
it
it on.
gets worse. It keeps getting
Yeah,
worse.
they
Oh
really
god.
tugged me in.
Oh Jesus. But oh
But
fuck's
from then
sake.
on, like I
Yeah,
was whipped.
yeah. Fair. If anyone was gonna tug you off,
Yeah,
Kenny S's fast hands have got to be the one, right?
yeah. I'm just
Um,
watching and they gripped me, and then
yeah,
from
yeah,
then on,
mate, fair, fair.
and
No,
now I got Nico and Monacy and like, but like I'm a Monacy and Nico fan rather than a G2 fan.
yeah, I get you, I get you. It's hard to be a G2 fan with those players though. They're such big
Yeah,
personalities. They're
I
such a
really like
huge part of the
Jags.
team. Yeah, I like Jax as well. He's a handsome fella. Got to
Yeah,
be said.
that does help.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. But mate, definitely. I think we'll leave the G2 part there for now because
yeah,
we'll definitely pick this up again later. Like
oh sick.
it's also like several months away from happening. It's just that the news was on it recently, and if anyone was going to give me an opinion about it, I wanted it to be you.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm worried.
yeah,
I I I hope that he's not looking at this as like the same way Ronaldo went to the Saudis,
yeah, yeah. Well, the
or
thing
how
is,
Messi,
I
like
think
Messi went
Falcons
to
have the
America.
pieces though. Like Magus is a fucking like I have ultimate respect for Magus from watching him. In Vitality. Also, I had a look at Falcons the other day, and to like him and some player, like all the players, right, have some their stats, right, but the stats are obviously against different levels of team. But Magus is the guy where his stats are his stats against the top 5 teams or the top 50 teams. It doesn't matter. Like he's Mr. Consistent. He delivers what he needs to. I still think he's good at his roles. Like he definitely had an adjustment period in CS2. I don't think it's necessarily suited his like slower style as much. I think he's maybe had to up the tempo a little bit. But I would like personally, I wish he never left Vitality. Mezzi's coming around now and he's starting to deliver, but in my opinion, Magisk wouldn't have had problems in that role. You know, he's a second voice in that team that they had before that they don't have now, and in a way I think it makes him more one dimensional. I think like what it means is Apex is the live or die guy because if his read is right,
he's right and everyone's going to do it because he's calling it. But if he's wrong or people are reading him, like there's no second voice that is going to like counter the read, you know? Like there's no second voice that's going to be able to see through what the other guy is seeing in Apex's behavior, right? There's no clarity or second perspective in that sense. So I was always sad to see Megas go, not only for the numbers, but because I think he was like a bedrock in that team, like in terms of what like who is he? Like he's a fucking four-time major champ, you know, with Astralis, the GOAT team. He has his own opinions about the game. He was calling Astralis at one point. Like he was always fucking delivering impact. Like in my opinion, he's still a great player, right? So you got him. You got Zonic as the coach. If like Snappy, I still believe he could be a good IGL. It's been a rough time here. Dupree weirdly has actually been quite good for them. I don't know if he's the player you'd keep. And then Madden and Pius, I think, are kind of I haven't seen enough since they came over. They didn't have enough like legacy as great players that I would give them much more time. But they haven't delivered at all enough. I feel like since they got here, and
Yeah.
they're supposed to be star, right? They're supposed to be power in that server. They don't feel it.
If it's a if only Nico's going, I'm gonna be a bit sad
Yeah,
because I don't think that's a good move. I don't think that's the winning move for Nico. I think if that is the case, he would have a better chance at winning by sticking on G2.
yeah,
But I think it was definitely someone on the Falcons team that leaked that information because once you have Nico, other people want to come, and I think essentially they're gonna pick up other people, and in that, if they do end up like putting the Saudi money and like all this like ridiculous endless amount of oil money into like surrounding Nico and making sure that he gets a major win, I'm gonna be happy about it.
yeah. Fair. No, I mean, if anyone needs one, it's him. The only
Like
person that I wish got one more is Guardian, personally. But that was just because when I was watching the game at the time, he was the other side of Kenny S. You know, like Kenny S is the best, but Guardian's the other best. You know,
yeah,
like
he's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, and it was always and you know what? I think also the one of the reasons I really always felt bad for Guardian, particularly because in every major final that he lost, he played like a champ. You know what I mean? I think apart from that one where he was injured, um, where he had a wrist injury, which is really understandable. Like the one where the
Yeah,
fucking everybody fucking what was it? Everybody like clap your hands or some shit like that. Anyway, there's a meme moment from the Romanian tournament that just came before that major that he injured his hand at. But essentially, yeah, I think he's the only other player, and mostly just because of how he played in the major finals he got to. Like, he was always like a delivering guy, like, and he just his teammates let him down. His team let him down. You know, I remember the Boston one in 2018. Like Nico wasn't there, man. But guess who was? Like Guardian was dropping numbers. Like he solo brought them through Mirage. I remember like he had like 31 kills coming into I think it went to OT or it was 16-14 and he had like 31 kills and there was one where he like some guys jumping through a smoke and he's no scoping the guy and shit like that. Like he's always played like a stud, which is why I felt so bad that he didn't get his major. With Nico in the recent years, it has been like that as well. Like that one in 2021 against Navi where he misses the deagle shot, like everyone's
brutal.
memeing on him, but dude, he had the fucking bomb tournament. Like he would have been the best player if he'd won that tournament. You know what I mean? Like even Simple was like in a similar boat, obviously, he just won the tournament, so he had the better numbers at the very end.
Yeah,
But yeah,
cool.
yeah, I'd like to see it for
Absolutely.
Nico.
But yeah, that's the
Um,
only situation that I'm happy with him going to Falcons is if
yeah.
they like absolutely fully invest in him and just like give him all the
So
pieces he
Munacy as
needs.
well, then basically
I would hate it
for G2, you'd hate it. Like
for
it's
G2. I
over
would hate
if
it.
you're
That
G2.
that
Like
would be end of G.
yeah,
Like they would have to start from scratch and
basically yes.
like they would have to build around
Malbs is
Malls.
not the name that is gonna pull people
Yeah,
in like Munacy
exactly.
and
Like
Nico.
I
Yeah,
think he's incredible, but he doesn't have like the tenure or like the respect that names like Monacy and Nico do.
no, definitely not for good reason.
So like
You know, but
yeah,
yeah.
he's new. He's like he just got here.
We'll get to it when we get to it, I think. I was interested,
But yeah,
definitely heard a lot of what you had to say on that. I'm curious as well how it'll play out. I want to know what's happening with Munacy as well. Like, there's a lot of potential that
yeah,
he also may have a move, by the sounds of things, but we really
yeah. His
don't know for
contract
sure.
ends the middle of next year. I
Right.
believe.
Right. Yeah, that could be a terrifying prospect for G2. You better hope they have something decent around
Yeah.
him by then.
Oh, I know.
Um,
And like the fact that they had the balls to ask Nico for a pay cut is ridiculous to me.
yeah, yeah, it's a bad sign for the team. Sounds like they're de-escalating the investment rather
Yeah.
than increasing it. But let's go on now to just a little bit of, we'll talk through maybe Group C and D, which have yet to happen for us.
Okay.
And we'll just have a talk about which teams we think we're likely to go through, like locks to go through maybe, and some teams that are a bit like less known or are not as good that we think have a good chance or we've liked the look of lately, kind of thing. So yeah, Mousesports really do jump off the page for me as the lock for Group C personally. They're definitely the best team on average aggregate. I even think probably uh there's only like two or three players in the whole bracket that have, or two or three teams that have players that are better than any of their players really in the whole bracket. Um, and definitely just the most elite team here. No stage component, no pressure, so it should be a Mouse, a freebie for Mouse in that
Mouse,
sense.
yeah. Mouse is a lock.
Yeah,
They're through.
yeah. So that leaves
That's
us
a
two
team I
more
would bet on. I would never
teams.
bet on G2, but that's a team I would bet on in
True,
this situation.
true. In this bracket for sure. So looking at
Yeah.
the other matchups, we got Big Imperial, Complexity, MAT, Fnatic, Astralis. So Big Imperial, I have no super strong feelings on. I know this decenty guy on Imperial's pretty good. Try also, I think, is also pretty good. Um, and they've obviously got Phelps and Vinny from like in terms of legacy, who you might know. And then big is the JDC, Crimbo, Tabson, Rigon,
Yeah.
Citizen lineup. I haven't been super impressed with big. They are who they always have been. They're the drilled German machine. But I'd say they lack in star power these days. I've liked what I've seen from JDC. Like he was obviously the support player from that Mouse lineup. That is now the main Mouse lineup, the NXT lineup. From back in the day, he was the fifth player that isn't Brolan, basically. And I would say he kind of, it's been sad for him to have to look at all of the people he came up with go ahead of him in the circuit, and become an elite team, and he's kind of been left out in the doldrums for a long time. I've been glad to see him in big. I think it's cool that he's on the German team as well because he's a German guy, and he's been playing well. Like he's better than you'd expect on this team. Um, so I've liked what I've seen from him. Crimbo's kind of been a bit off lately. Like to me, he was Big's best player before by quite a long way, and right now he at times can be their best player still, but he just doesn't look very consistent. He doesn't look like he's quite in the form he was. So I don't know. I think it's a bit of a hard one to call because I don't see enough of Imperial against EU opposition to get a really great feel for their form in general. But um, I don't know. I don't know. Which way would you take this one on, Ted?
I'd say I give it to Imperial.
Okay, they do have like some pretty nice star players in my opinion. Definitely
Yeah.
see it
Phelps is legit. He's been around for a long time. Yeah, he's 27. He's not like past his prime. Like this player is older than him.
for sure.
Vinny's been pretty good. Maybe I haven't seen him recently, but I know his name.
Yeah, he's always been a
Um,
very stable guy.
and then Big is just like they're always just a bit underwhelming. Like they never reach for the stars. They're all about like keeping it German.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so in this one, I think it's going to be close. Maybe I think Big could definitely give them a chance. Big could definitely win it. But if I had to like gun to my head, Imperial's winning this.
I'm kind of with you. I think like on average, Big maybe would be a better team, but they definitely don't have the better stars in my opinion.
Mhm.
Like in terms of skill level, I think Imperial could turn up with a lot of skill and just
Yeah.
torch him. Really, if it could,
If both teams play
yeah,
their best game, Imperial's winning.
yeah. It looks that way. Looks that way. The quality just seems a bit more consistent. Especially with the form of the players at the moment. Okay, so then we got Complexity M80. So this is the home matchup, right? Complexity, obviously the more well-known team. M80 famous for having lost Malbs lately. Although I believe it's is it Slacks, the guy they picked up for him? I forget. Or yeah, but basically they've actually been pretty good considering that they lost their best player by a long shot. Um, but I personally would say there's no one on that team that can really beat Elige. Like Elige will be, from what I can see, the best player in the server. I don't really think anyone else has it in them to be as good.
There's no denying that.
No, and then it becomes a question of, is the rest of the parts like basically, can the Liege get let down by his team? Of course he can. I'd say it's less likely to me in the domestic matchup. They're all players that are going to know each other, maybe a little bit know what to expect out of each other as well. I'll give this one to complexity personally. I just think Elige on his own will win this game. That's the way
I
I
have to
see it.
agree with you on that.
So
That
then
would be
we
a
got
huge disappointment if they ended up losing to M80.
it'd be
Like
a disaster. Yeah.
if M80 then became like the best, mostly North American team.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
Liquid
yeah.
most? No, Liquid's not. They got
Yeah, they're NAF Twist.
Snap and Twist.
Yeah, is that it? Is that... And then you got Ultimate. You got Yukindar. Fuck's sake, who's the last player now?
JKS.
Yeah, yeah,
So they've
JK. So
only got
yeah,
two North
two
American teams.
NAs.
Yeah.
Um,
So like M80 cannot be the best, mostly North American team.
yeah,
Or
you
mostly
hope not.
American team.
You hope not.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, Complexity should be winning this. It would be a huge disappointment if they lost this, especially considering like they played these guys in their scrims. Like they it's not unknown opposition, so hopefully it's more predictable. You know.
I think I'm gonna bet on a complexity lock here. So that brings us on to Fnatic Astralis as the last opening round for Group C. I think, I like what I've seen out of this what's his name now? Matisse. I don't know, Matisse or Matisse kid from
Yeah.
Fnatic. He's looked good. He's like a legit pickup by the looks of it. He's just been banging since he's been here, really. Blamef is still the player you remember. Still a big numbers guy from the back. I don't believe in Afro as an AWPer, in my opinion. I think he's weak, relative to the field of their opposition. And Crims hasn't really been Crims for a while now, in my opinion. That name carries a lot of weight for that guy. But yeah, I think I could see a world where Astralis lose. Actually, I don't think Astralis have looked great either. Like, Device still putting up some okay numbers. Stown, I mean, this cunt just goes missing anytime you need him. Anytime you need Stown to deliver, he's not gonna be there. Yabi has looked okay, but really nothing to write home about. Like, average or slightly above average pro. Stairs being a similar boat, and then Bro is literally just here to get his ass stuffed with cocks because like he just has no space to do whatever he wants. Like he's just the bitch player, as always. I could see a real world where Fnatic win. I think like Blamef could be the best player in the server. Matisse could be maybe also among the best in the server. Like, I mean, equally, a lot of guys on Stralis in their heyday would make mincemeat of these guys right now, but I just don't believe they're in their heyday. I'm not seeing Astralis as that great. Like, they had some results when they first made the lineup, but they haven't looked good in a while. I haven't seen that many promising results since then. I don't think their stars are necessarily on fire either. So I don't know. I'm kind of leaning Fnatic on this matchup, which is kind of crazy. They're definitely what most people would consider the underdog in terms of experience, probably in terms of the players as well. But just in the current form, I could see a world, I really could. Device might be the difference maker, though, because Afro is not a great AWPer.
Yes, Device certainly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I could see a world where Fnatic take it. I'm reaching a little there. Like it's
Uh,
for sure
yeah.
not a lot, but I just don't
I think it's
believe
going
in
to be very
Astralis.
close. I think it's be very close, but I do think Astralis should eke out the win here.
They should. They should. And if they do, I think based on what we said, it would be them probably against Complexity in their next round. I think I would actually say they should lose to Complexity. Because again, I don't think anyone in the server is going to be better than Elige. Like, Device
I would
can
want them
be.
to lose to Complexity.
Yeah, fair. Fair. NA. Got to look out for the homies. But I actually just think, like, if I think about it right now, I don't think, like, Device can be better than Elige. I just don't know if, I don't think he will be. And then I just think Elige is going to be the best player in the server, you know? Halzark isn't bad. Like, he's not good, but he won't be a liability like I would say Afro might be in the Fnatic match, for instance. And then you just need one of Grim and Floppy not to shit the bed, and I literally just think you could win off that. I think it would be hard. I think Astralis definitely have more players that could turn up. Astralis's peak level is definitely better. Their floor looks weak. Complexity has a really quite stable floor, and I think they could just take Astralis, and then Astralis goes down to the lower bracket, where they should still make it through. I mean, the favorites, in my opinion, out of this group to make it through would be Mouse, Complexity, and Astralis. They're obviously the bigger names.
Is it only 3 to go through?
There's only 3, so it's the 2 that make it to upper final, and then the one that wins the lower final. So those would be the main teams that would make it through for me. I'd say out of those, I'm maybe least. I'm not confident in Complexity or Astralis, actually. I think tends to be, though, Complexity beats the teams that are worse than them most of the time, and Astralis really can lose to teams that are worse than them sometimes. So I'd say Astralis maybe would be the one that is less likely to make it through, and in that place, I'd say maybe a Fnatic, maybe an Imperial would have a chance to get through on the lower final.
Yeah, I think I fully agree with you on that. Group
Yeah,
C breakdown.
I mean, there's also a lot of nobody teams in this that I don't know
Yeah.
very well, and I don't expect anything from. Like the Rooster team that Mouse plays at the start. I genuinely don't think I know any of the names. And they're like the
Yeah, I don't.
106th ranked team in the world, so I just don't expect them to do anything. And then M80 could do something. I just think they're probably not that deep on firepower right now. They just lost their best player recently. Like, am I expecting the team to be able to make up the difference? I'm not sure I do expect that. So, yeah, I'd say that's what I think Group C would look like for now. And unless you have any other interesting parts for Group C, I think we'll move on to Group D.
No, I think that's pretty concise. Like, I agree with you on all the breakdowns of who's winning what map.
Yeah.
Generally for the same reasons too. I will like to say that FaZe have smashed NIP on Dusthill.
They have they?
13-1.
Wow. Statement. Absolute statement. So now they're on map 3?
So they've made it through that series.
Oh, as in that's the last map. Okay.
Yeah,
so they've won map 2 as well, and yeah, they also bodied map 2 then in that case. I believe. Yeah, there was a 13-9. Not bodied, I guess. Nice. Okay, so FaZe made it through. So now they got one more game to win, right? They got to win the lower final, and then they can make it all the way.
Oh no, FaZe are through. Oh no, that's the lower, yeah.
Yeah. And then, it looks like are they gonna be playing Sangal? Did Sangal really beat Heroic?
Looks like it. So
I'm
so
surprised
Sangal beat
by that.
Heroic. So it's gonna be the rematch of FaZe Sangal for
Holy
the
shit.
lower final.
I mean, like, I'm shocked Sangal won this. Like, their players' statistics look a bit rough. The xCloud and Jota guys look like they did okay, but Jesus, man. Dexter even popped off. Like, I can't even lie. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm kind of blown away by that.
Yeah,
But fair enough.
No one on Heroic below 1.
Yeah, and they still lost, right? So that's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. I guess it was just close on the maps that they lost, but Jesus. Feel bad for them, I guess. Seems like they played pretty well, and that first snap tap might have actually cost them a place in the playoffs here, for real. Looks like it, actually. Wow, tough to be Heroic, I guess. So I guess that means FaZe is playing Sangal again, right? Because they lost in the opening to Sangal. Interesting. So it's the rematch. Can
Yeah,
they
the
take
rematch.
Sangol on the rematch? I'm gonna say they can. Usually,
Yeah,
FaZe tend to do better on
FaZe
the second round.
FaZe should wake up, realize what they did wrong, fill those holes.
Yeah, I'm
But
worried they play to the level
if
of their
Sang
opponent as well, though. We'll see about it.
if Sangal beats them again, though, that's impressive. I don't know who the fuck these guys are, but like if they beat FaZe twice and like block
Yeah,
them from going to the playoffs, that's
definitely,
impressive. Like,
definitely. I mean, this is definitely the place where you don't want to meet FaZe in the tournament. You know, when everything's on the line, and it's like play for your tournament life. Never feels good to play FaZe, in my opinion. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, if they can take it through this series, it's a legit couple upsets, but it's a really bad sign for FaZe. Which if it happens, I'm sure we'll talk about it. But okay, so that's good, cool. We got the breakdown of those last couple matches that we were waiting the outcomes for. Um, and I'll say FaZe is the favorite. Um, so now let's go into Group D. This is the last group for us to cover here. So this the four opening matchups will be Vitality versus Atox, Furia versus Falcons, Liquid versus Ents, and Red Canids versus Virtus Pro. So I'd say
Straight away, I'm saying Vitality's going through.
Vitality is the favorite in this group for sure. I mean, they won Cologne. They've been looking in amazing form, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are the best team in the world right now. I'm obviously a big biased fan, but I actually think right now, if I had to make a bet on who's most likely to win the major, I think it is Vitality. Um, Navi are the most likely to make the major final, but Vitality is the most likely to win. That's my opinion. Um, because I just think they have
Yeah.
the firepower. They could beat everyone. Like they're looking in really good form. Like what I really loved from Cologne was just how resilient they were, staying in those fucking close matches and against Navi, like on all of the maps basically. I mean, Inferno they kind of had the lead and Navi started coming back, but they really like their mentor looked a lot better. Like when I compare it to Dallas, and they're like constantly getting into OTs and looking really pressured and nervous and stressed. Versus like what I saw at Cologne, where they're getting into these OTs, they're still playing like very decisive CS, still making big ballsy calls and plays, not playing like a play to lose, play not to lose style, still going for the play to win kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was really impressed. So I think currently Vitality are my number one like favorite to win tournaments. Navi is my number one to perform the best overall. Like to be the most consistent. I just don't necessarily think they could win. They could win tournaments. I just think there's a lot of teams that could beat them on their day. Um,
Mm.
so in that sense, I'd say like yeah, they're a bit less likely. So Atox seems to be. I mean, the only player I know on Atox is Annihilation, and I believe he used to play for Mongols or what was the other one? IMT or something. Is it? The old Mongolian team. They had it was like a three-letter name like that. But yeah. So apart from that, I don't know any of the other players, but it does seem to be a full Mongolian team as well. And Annihilation was the AWPer, of course. Um,
IHC.
IHC, that's it. Thank you,
He
thank
was
you.
also on NKT and D13.
Of course, so many fuck. D13 is die in that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so anyway, I just don't think they're taking Vitality. Like Annihilation's a known player. He's pretty good. I think he was. Oh, I mean, he's a bit streaky from what I remember, but he had enough peaks to actually play some of the good teams well at times. But he does not have the roster to beat Vitality, and Vitality look like one of the best teams in the world and probably should win this tournament if anything, rather than lose to their first round matchup of some random
Oh yeah,
team.
they're one of the favorites to win this tournament.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
they're
So
definitely winning that opening match, and I take them versus Fury or Falcons,
yeah,
no matter what
true,
form they're in.
true. Bringing us very nicely to Furia versus Falcons. Now this one's a weird one, man, because like I don't know, I could see it go either way, kind of thing. Like Fury is really bad, but Falcons is really bad. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I don't know, like they're kind of both teams that you'd expect a lot more from. They've kind of like I'd say Furia, like K Toronto is probably best player in server. In my
Hmm.
opinion, I don't think there's anyone in the server really right now that would is. I mean, some Pius could do it. I just don't think he's likely to. the odds are definitely K Serato
Yeah,
being the
he's
best
not.
player.
He's not.
And then I guess like on the average aggregate skill, maybe Falcons is better. You know, like Vegas, Dupree, Madden, Sampaius is probably better than Case Serato, Yuri, Fool, and Skulls right now. But or sorry, yeah,
Hmm.
minus Fallen plus Cello because like Fallen's not a star at all. He's the IGL, but um, I don't know. Like I think it's more even than it seems. Really, I think I would actually give it to Falcons probably though. Even though Case Rato is likely to be best player in server, like I actually probably would give it to them still.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I think Queso is probably going to be the highest rated player,
Yeah,
putting up the best numbers, but I think his team's going to let him down in that factor.
I definitely think so. I
Unless,
mean, yeah,
if Skulls shows up though, if we have Queso and Skulls playing well, then I think Fury definitely have a chance of winning. I think this is basically a 50-50 in my book. Like,
this is as close to a 50-50 I think I've seen so far in the matches.
yeah,
Like to me, like both of these teams have really obvious flaws. But like they also have like strengths as well. You know,
yeah,
I
it's a
I would
50-50
say
for the
like
wrong reasons.
the like Caserato on his best game could just win the series on his own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But like overall, I would expect the average like level from people to be like in the favor of Falcons. So I think I'd give it to Falcons just on the chance that the average is going to be better for their team than for Furia, to be honest. But
yeah,
it's pretty close. Like they're both about the same level of bad, so and under delivering. So I don't know. It's anyone's guess, really.
yeah. If they had
Um,
to play this 10 times, I would say Falcons would win the majority of them.
yeah, I'm kind of with you.
But I would say the ones that Furia win would probably be in more dominant fashion.
Yes, I think I also agree. I think I also
So
agree.
like depends which one of those like out of let's say they play it 10 times. It depends which one of those 10 we get tomorrow because
Yeah, it's true. I'm gonna say that it's gonna be Falcons. Like now that they know that Nico's come in and someone's going, like this, they know that this lineup isn't like being judged the same way. I'm gonna bet that they have that kind of honeymoon, or not the opposite of a honeymoon, I guess. The team's dead and everyone can just play freely and not without as much pressure. And I'm gonna say that that helps them a little bit, and allows them to take over the line. Um, but then it brings us to Liquid versus Ents, and I think this is extremely one sided because this
yeah.
isn't even the Ents we remember from Kato. Like this is like fucking, I don't know, dude. This is some abomination. Like the only people left from that original lineup is Kylar, Goofy, and Glaive. Dicha and what's his name? Diha and Hades are gone off this roster from the start, and they have Sundai Young and a guy called Poddy, who I believe is their AWPer now. Um, yeah, I don't believe in this team at all, really. Since that one pop off with Glaive at the start events, I haven't really necessarily seen that much to write home about. They don't necessarily look like they're tactically beyond anyone else, particularly. At the same time, they don't really have firepower that delivers beyond anyone else either. So they're kind of a bit of a flat one on both sides for me. Whereas Liquid just have like so much in terms of reasons they could win this game. Like Ultimate has been a revelation at Cologne. Obviously, he hasn't played playoffs and stuff, and he's still very new, but it's way above what you would have expected against people like FaZe, and obviously the other teams weren't amazing, but neither is Ents, so you definitely expect it again here. Um, Naf is a fucking monster. Twists could still be the best player in the server as well. Like Yakinda, he's bad, but he's not gonna be this bad. JKS is obviously coming back into it, but again, like you already kind of saw like what you might expect his bottom level to look like. So I think this is a pretty clear cut. Liquid are gonna win this one. Ents would have to pull out some anti-stratting genius out of Glaive's asshole to be able to take this one home, in my opinion.
Yeah, certainly. I think yeah. For me, I'm I'm an NA fan. Like I'm just gonna have to believe on this one. Liquid are definitely winning it. Like I would be shocked if they didn't, and I think it would be like that'd be problems for the team if they had lost this matchup.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like someone Yakindar is gonna go if they lose this matchup.
Fair. Whilst he rakes in absolute god cash as one of the highest paid players in the scene, apparently.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think
So,
he like this is what I don't understand. G2 asks Nico for a pay cut, but Liquid's not asking Yakindar for a pay cut.
yeah, true.
Like what?
I
What
mean,
world are we in?
he absolutely should. I mean, I'm gonna say like Liquid have looked like a pretty badly managed roster for a while now. Like, I don't know, a lot of their pickups and stuff don't make much sense. Like, to me, Ultimate is like you got lucky, dude. Like, no one knew this guy was good. I mean, you got lucky that Twists knew this guy that just happened to actually be a fucking
Yeah,
like a bona fide good player, and that is working out right
but
now
even
because
Twist
you would
got
have
lucky.
been, yeah, even Twist got lucky, but
Yeah.
you'd be in the shitter right now if not for that, basically. And I don't know, a lot of your moves have looked bad. Like, how does it look now to drop a Liege for fucking Yakinda? You know what I mean? Like, one of the most consistent, best players in North America has an off year. Yakinda's looking good, so you decide to go with Yakinda over a Liege. And now Liege is looking like a fucking great player again. And who knew it? He has years still left in the tank. Like, I don't know. It's looking pretty rough. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
I think they've made a lot of bad moves or sideways moves, and now they're kind of at the point where Twist just gets to dictate what he wants. Because if he leaves, this roster is also in a really bad spot again.
Mm.
So I don't know. I think yeah, Liquid should easily take that. I'm curious to see how far they can make it. I would say, they're probably the second most likely to make it out of this group.
Yeah,
Behind
I'd say so.
Vitality, like they have the best players apart from them. Um, I don't know though. Like they could still play a bad level of CS and lose to a lot of the teams here, but I don't know. They should make it through. And then
Yeah, it's
finally,
definitely they're definitely my number 2 pick for making it to playoffs.
yeah, yeah, same for sure. I mean, just the firepower alone was enough for that. So lastly, we have Red Canids versus Virtus Pro is the last
Yeah.
first round
Who the
matchup.
They got Henny. Oh, and Cold Zero's on this
I
team.
know, and
Wow.
then there's a guy called Venom Zero, which is kind of, I find that a bit weird. I don't know how he knows
Does
or is
Zero
related
mean
to Cold.
something?
I don't know. I
It
don't
might
know
mean
enough
something in
Portuguese for that.
Portuguese.
But either way, I think this is an interesting one because Virtus Pro also has been a team really underperforming relative to who they've got on the roster. Obviously, Electronic, Flit, Fame, Jame as well. Like you expect a lot from these guys. They're some of the best players Russia has to offer, and in this roster, they've done nothing but look flat and uninteresting. They don't have the unique style that Virtus Pro with Jame was famous for. They don't look particularly unpredictable or hard to play. I think I mean I literally don't think their opponents are scared to play them in the way that they were before. That they always felt like it was going to be a tough game, as well as going to go all the rounds. It's always going to be tight as hell, and it's going to come down to the last few pressure rounds as to whether or not you can beat them. Like that's not this team, at all, in my opinion. They can look really really flat, and their bottom level can be absolutely awful. Um, on the flip side, though, like Red Canids obviously has some names we recognize, but I wouldn't say any of them are really in their prime. I'd say Henny has potential though. Like he's still being good at the last RMR. He was still good. Um, I think he could be potentially the best player on the server. I think it's unlikely though. He's obviously these aren't bums on Virtus Pro, but as a team they don't look good, so it's a possibility. And then Davidus or David Deus, I'm not sure, but um, he's been a very good player for Red Canids. I'm not really aware of him though. He's not someone that's particularly on my radar. Um, so I guess Virtus Pro could lose this game. If they do, I assume there'll be a roster change though, and this would be the end of Virtus Pro because it would be literally that bad. They should definitely beat this roster hands down, and they definitely have the better team, the more relevant team in the top level of CS today. But um, yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I'm just shocked that Cold Zero's on this team.
Yeah, true. He's doing all
I
right
didn't
on
know
the
that was
numbers apparently, but they were playing like Brazilian teams or whatever, so I don't know how good they are.
Yeah,
Like the
I'm
opposition
shocked. How old is he?
must be like
He's
29.
29.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's 29. Yeah. Oh wow.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Oh, that'll be exciting. I'd like to see him.
it's a
I'd like to see them win.
it's an
But
interesting game. Like to me, like Red Canids, the interesting thing about this one, because obviously it's a number 49 in the world team versus the number 7 in the world team. You very easily would expect the number 7 to be the favorite here, for very many reasons. But in my opinion, the punter's chance probably is Henny. I know he could deliver big numbers against good opposition. He's a very flashy style of AWPer. I think he has a lot of impact when he plays and the frags that he goes for and gets. So like there is a legitimate viable win condition here. If Henny has a life game kind of thing. Um, and maybe it wouldn't even need to be a life game because Virtus.pro could play themselves out of it, quite frankly.
that's
But
true.
I think against this level of opponent, you have to believe that they can take them down, that they just have the firepower advantage, and it's not going to matter. But I'll say Canids have a off chance of Henny going
Yeah.
nuclear and potentially could win through that means. But yeah,
I'd like to see that happen, but I think it's unlikely.
it's definitely unlikely. I'm gonna say Virtus.pro are likely to go through on that one. In terms of this group, though, in terms of who gets through to playoffs, right? We're just talking about the first round matchups here. Vitality is the lock for me. They're getting to playoffs no matter if they have to go through the upper or lower bracket. I think there's no way they're losing more than one match in this group. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, they're the ultimate lock. But then Liquid is like not a really hard set too. You know, because like they so like if Liquid beat Ents and Virtus.pro beat Canids and Liquid's playing Virtus.pro, that's a toss up for sure. I'd give Liquid the edge on firepower, but it's not like Virtus.pro are necessarily like outgunned in terms of like what their players can do. It's just that we haven't seen it from them lately. But these players are definitely like capable of doing that to players of Liquid's caliber. That's not an easy set game. You know, Fury and Falcons being the 50-50 teams that they are, like they also are teams that would have chances against a Liquid or a Virtus.pro in the lower bracket as well. I'd again not favor either of them. Probably, maybe Virtus.pro could lose to Falcons, but it's close, and probably Virtus.pro should still win. Um, but there's definitely like I'd say there's actually like Vitality's a lock, and then there's 5 teams that could make it through, right? 4 teams. It could be Fury, it could be Falcons, it could be Liquid, it could be Virtus.pro. Ents I don't believe in really. I don't think they have what it takes to win multiple games. Red Canids I also don't believe in, but I think if Henny had like an amazing tournament and their Davideus guy was all right and their other players are all right, I could see a world where it would be enough actually just to win against a couple outformed teams. So I guess yeah, it's quite wide open. I'd say my top 3 favorites are definitely Vitality, Liquid, and VP though, out of everyone.
Yeah. No, I'd say that. Vitality, Liquid. Yeah, VP, and then
Falcons, Furia, pick whichever one you want in which order, basically, right?
Vitality definitely. Liquid, I'd say, is number 2, and then I think Fury have a chance.
They definitely have a chance. I mean, I think it depends on their opening matchup because, like, if you can get to the opening matchup and then first round of lower brackets ends up being Falcons versus Atox, and then you get the rematch in lower bracket against Falcons again if you lose to Vitality, probably, right? Um, yeah, I could definitely. Oh no, you would go to the other side of the bracket, so it'd be either Liquid or Virtus.pro then, or Ents, or I don't know. I think personally, I'd say it's Vitality, Liquid, and Virtus.pro that you expect to see go through here. I could see a real world where
Yeah.
Virtus.pro is the least likely of those 3 to get
Yeah.
through. Falcons
I also
or
get
Fury
scared
could go through.
if Liquid did drop down to the lower bracket, I'd get scared.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of like we need to see what the form is looking like for some of these teams in the tournament because it's been a while. We haven't necessarily seen them play these opponents in a long time, so yeah, it could. There's a lot of ways it could go for sure, but what all I know is Vitality's making it through.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think that's about everything we wanted to talk about in this episode. Um, I'd say it was a pretty successful start. So we will see you again next week on Wednesday, and hopefully we'll have a bit more to talk about in what's happening in the groups, and we'll know whether or not FaZe are fully through. So we have a lot more to talk about, and we'll see you soon to talk about it. Bye.
Adios.